We all want to keep our minds sharp as we age, right? We're doing puzzles, trying to learn new skills, maybe even tackling a new language. But what if I told you that one of the absolute best tools for your brain health isn't on some app or in a book, but it's literally right outside your front door? So that leads to a really interesting question. When it comes to our brain, is all exercise created equal? I mean, we know moving is good for us, that's a given. But does it matter how we move, or even where we move? Does that make a difference in protecting our cognitive skills? Well, today, we're going to dig in and find out. So we're going to dive into the science of what people call active aging. And really, it's just this idea that it's not enough to just live longer. We want to live better, right? With a mind that's just as healthy as our body. And it turns out a super interesting recent study gives us some major clues on how to pull that off. Okay, so for years and years, we've heard it. Exercise for your heart, for your bones, your muscles. We get it. That's basically settled science. But what about the link between specific types of exercise and things like your attention span or your memory? Now that's where our story really gets interesting. To get some answers, we're actually going to head over to Italy. That's where a group of researchers decided to put this whole idea to the test. They set up this year-long experiment to see, what exactly happens to the aging brain based on different lifestyles. So they got 151 older adults, aged anywhere from 65 to 87, and they just tracked their normal everyday activities. What's so cool about this study is that it wasn't some quick one-off lab test. No, this was a year-long deep dive into how people actually live their lives. That's what makes the results so powerful. All right, so here are our three contenders. First up, we've got the hikers. These folks were getting after it, doing intense, vigorous activity out in nature. Then you've got the gymnasts. Their activity was more moderate. Think gentle exercises, maybe some recreational swimming, but it was all done indoors. And finally, you have the sedentary group, just doing the normal day-to-day movements of life. So, three very different ways of living. Okay, so a full year goes by. The researchers bring everybody back in for a bunch of cognitive and psychological tests. And the results? Well, let's just say they were pretty surprising. Definitely not what you might expect. So, before I spill the beans, what do you think? Which group came out on top with the biggest brain benefits? The intense hikers, the moderate gymnasts? I mean, you'd think both active groups would do better than the sedentary one, right? Makes sense. Whoa, just look at this. Seriously, look at this size of that gap. This chart is showing how they did on a test for attention and processing speed. The hikers, that first bar, they're just miles ahead. But then look at the other two bars, the gymnasts and the sedentary group. They're basically the same. It's wild. It means that moderate indoor exercise gave them pretty much zero cognitive boost over just, being sedentary. So yeah, this is the key takeaway. The hikers didn't just do a little bit better, they absolutely blew the other groups out of the water. We're talking about their ability to focus, to process stuff quickly, to just pay attention. It was on a whole other level. And this quote from the study just says it all, really. The researchers themselves were kind of shocked. They wrote that the gym group had a greater affinity with the sedentary group than with the hikers. I mean, that's a polite scientific way of saying the moderate indoor exercise just didn't deliver the goods. The benefits weren't there. Okay, so this is the million-dollar question, right? Why? What was the secret sauce for the hikers? What made hiking so special? Well, it looks like it's a super powerful combo of two key things that the other groups just didn't have. All right, first up is this idea called cognitive reserve. The easiest way to think about it is like a savings account for your brain. It's a buffer, and the study found that the hikers were doing more stuff that stimulated their brains, in their free time. Think about it. When you're hiking, you're navigating a trail, you're reacting to uneven ground. That complex environment is a workout for your mind, not just your body. And the second piece of the puzzle is something with a fancy name, the biophilia hypothesis. But all it really means is that we humans have this built-in need to connect with nature. It's just how we're wired. Being outside literally reduces stress and mental fatigue, and that lets our brains work way more efficiently. The gymnasts stuck inside, they were totally missing out on that amazing restorative effect. So you put those two things together, and it all starts to make sense. The hikers had the whole package: a mentally challenging activity, the stress-busting power of being in nature, and they got a major mood boost out of it too. The indoor gym group, they just couldn't hang. Okay, so the science is super cool, right? The conclusion is pretty clear. But what do we do with this information? How do we actually apply it to our own lives? Well, we can take what we learned from this study and mix it with some really solid advice from the CDC about active living. And here's the most important part. You don't have to go out and climb Mount Everest tomorrow. Seriously, this journey to a stronger mind and a stronger body, it can start small. In fact, it probably should. Because if there's one thing to take away from that Italian study, it's this. The kind of movement you do and where you do it matters a lot. The goal isn't just movement for movement's sake. It's about finding meaningful movement that gets your body and your mind working together, ideally out in nature. A really great way to get started is by using SMART goals. Let's break it down. S for specific. Don't just say, I'll walk more. Say, I will walk in the park down the street. M for measurable. I'll walk for 20 minutes 3 times this week. A for attainable. Make sure it's something you can actually do right now. R for relevant. Why are you doing this? Because I want a healthier brain. And T for time-based. Give yourself a deadline. I'm starting this Tuesday. Easy. And listen, you don't need to gear up like a pro hiker. It could be as simple as finding a local park with some walking paths, or maybe trying out gardening, or even just walking along a beach or lake. The key is just getting yourself outdoors. Treat it like an appointment you can't miss. Put it on your calendar. Because at the end of the day, the absolute best activity for your brain is the one you actually enjoy and will stick with. So play around with it. Try different things. Find what makes you happy, whether that's tackling a tough trail or just the quiet of a garden. Whatever it is, make that your thing. So the next time you're thinking about getting a workout in, remember, it's not just for your body. Think about your mind. Give your brain that rich, natural, engaging workout that it's just craving. So the only question left is, what journey are you going to start today?